Hi guys, Sharna here with a new lawnfawn card. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be using the two new koala stamp sets from lawnfawn. That's the Party Koala and I Love Eucalyptus. They are both extremely adorable. The Party Koala is only available during your birthday month if you purchase directly from lawnfawn's website. And since my birthday was in November, I was lucky enough to pick that up. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp these both out on some Neenah Solar White paper with my lawnfawn jet black ink. I'm going to be doing some Copic Coloring, so I want to make sure I'm using an ink that doesn't smear. And this one is my favorite. It's nice and dark and stamps really well. And I always stamp extras just in case something goes wrong while I'm coloring or I mess something up. It's always fun to have extras on hand so you don't have to take everything back out. So I'm going to go ahead and use the coordinating dies for these here. So let's go ahead and move on to the Copic Coloring. I'm using my warm grays here, and I will put the colors up on the screen because I do realize it's hard to see even when I hold them up like that. So if you're wondering what colors I'm using, they will be listed in the lower left-hand corner. And I always start with my darkest color. I just find it easier. If I go the other way, I tend to make my images way too dark. So I'm going to start with the W5 and don't have a particular way that I color for shading. I'm just attempting to make the image look rounded. So, you know, underneath the chin, around the legs, around the body, just to give it that nice rounded appearance. So I'm going to go ahead and blend out my W5 with the W3, extending it just a little bit more to bring it in. I know some people use their mid-tone for most of the image. I do not. I actually use the lightest color for most of my image. I just prefer the way it looks, honestly. So once I'm done with the W3, then I'm going to move on to the W1. You can, of course, use any of the grays or any colors that you want. I just prefer the W colors for koalas. Koalas have that nice brownish grayish fur, and I think the W warm gray colors work best. So now I'm just filling in everything. I'm going to go back over the entire image just to make sure it's blended out. And that helps give you a nice smooth blend. And the last color I'm using is the W00 just to give him a little bit of color on his belly. And for his cheeks and the inside of his ears, I'm using the R20 marker, which I will blend out sometimes with the gray markers just to give it a softer appearance, because sometimes that R20 marker can be a bit stark on the lighter colors. And I'm going to add a little R00 just to blend that up in the ears. Now I'm just going to add a couple white highlights with my gel pen. Honestly, no rhyme or reason, just anything that I think I want to look shiny, especially his little nose. He's so cute. I can't get over it. So I'm going to move on to the other little koala, the one that looks like he's sitting in a branch. And I colored him much the same way I colored the original image, starting with the W5 marker. And again, all the colors are listed in the lower left-hand corner for you. I extended the line under his chin a little bit just to give some definition between his body and his head. That's the only major difference between this image and the other image. I'm going to go ahead and shade his back arm and his back leg darker, and around his little bottom and his belly, just because that would be hidden under his arm. I clearly cannot color this fast. The video is sped up to about twice as fast as what I would be coloring it normally. So just adding a little bit more definition with the W3 marker, blending it out in his little ears. The W family and the grays blend really well together, so I don't find it very difficult to get these to give me a smooth blend without taking away too much of the darker colors. But if you do find when you go back over the colors that it's too light, you can always go back in with your darkest marker just to add a little bit more definition back in. Sometimes I don't even bother blending it back out once I do that. The contrast is really what's going to give you the shape and definition to your image, make it really pop. So I'm just going to add the R20 for the cheeks and the ears here. Blend that back out with the R00. So I wasn't happy with the way the back of the koala was blended out, so I'm just going to go back over it a little bit with the lightest color just to get a little bit better blend on that. And I'm going to add the same white highlights to his nose. And I warm it up on my fingers sometimes just to get the ink flowing before I take it to the project, just so it doesn't skip. So I'm going to go ahead and get out my E40 markers just to color in the little branch here that goes with the koala. I used, I believe, E43 and E41, and maybe a little bit of E44. Oh no, it was just E43 and E44. And a couple of my favorite greens. It's such a tiny image, you don't need a whole lot of colors. So just the YG 67 and 63 here. I love how that looks with him, he's so cute. I'm going to go ahead and cut his little paws apart so I can just tuck that in there. So it looks like he's holding it. And while I have these new dies out, I'm going to go ahead and cut a little strip of magnet so I can keep all of my dies together and not lose them, especially these little tiny ones. I just get these little strips of magnets from the craft store. You can buy them in sheets, I think 4x6 and 9x12. And I just cut mine down, just makes it easier for me. And now I'm going to get some tree trunks. I already had these die cut out of some of the brown cardstock from Lawnfawn. And I'm just laying things out, making sure that I have the spacing right. Realized I missed his little tail. Go ahead and fill that in. And I'm just futzing around, making sure I like how everything looks, figuring out where I want everything to sit. And I think I have my layout how I want it. Just deciding if I wanted to add more. And got out this other stamp set, this more stamp set, because I liked the saying. So I'm just figuring out where I want to put that. And I'm going to white heat emboss this here. So I've got my embossing buddy bag just to take off any static. My clear embossing ink. I'm going to stamp that twice just to make sure. And I have the Lawnfawn white embossing powder. My heat tool, I always get it going before I'm ready for it, just so it's nice and hot when I'm ready to go. And I use a coffee filter because otherwise I make a giant mess. And I just love how smooth and everything that the Lawnfawn embossing powder comes out as. So this is how I make my card bases. That's actually for wallpaper, I believe. In one of my classes, one of the ladies brought it for me as a gift, and I've been using it ever since. It works really well, especially on the 110-pound cardstock, which is what I like to use for my bases, just because it's nice and sturdy. And it doesn't leave any marks in the paper. I'm just using some liquid glue, Lawnfawn liquid glue, to attach my bottom layers here. just because it gives me a time to adjust to make sure that it's on there straight. And it's a really thin layer of glue. I know it looks like a lot in the video, but it's the lawnfawn glue comes out really nicely. I added him to his little tree. I'm just getting him in there real quick, in between all the layers before the glue dries. And you're going to see me screw that up in a minute here. I'm going to get this bigger one on for the background. I'm just double checking where I need to put that last tree. And you're going to see me attach it here, but I attach it too high up. I should have moved it down, but I wasn't paying attention. So I'm going to have to remove that. But I thought I'd leave it in just so you can see how to fix your mistake if you do something similar. So I'm just using foam tape to give a little bit of dimension to this last layer here. Pop up the ground. And pop up the last koala. And that's when I realized it was too short. So I just ripped it off, and we're going to use another tree. And I'm just going to attach that flat since it is going behind the koala anyways. It wasn't necessary that it be popped up. And I wanted to make sure it's straight, so I'm just doing it upside down. And then I'm going to move my tree around so nice and flat. And cut off all the excess off the bottom. I'm going to put this little friend down here. And I think that sentiment goes really well with the two of them. Good for my hubby or to send to a friend of mine. I didn't want to make a Valentine's Day card, but I wanted it to be usable for Valentine's Day. And I just got a couple pretty pink posh sequins here just for that final touch. That's it. That's the card for today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping by.